We are going to start with House File 14, which is Chair Ecklund Broadband Development Grant Appropriation Bills. So, Chair Ecklund, you're up again. We will move on to House File 14. We will be merging this bill and the Agriculture Omnibus Bill File 1524, which is up next. So we will lay this bill over after discussion. Chair Ecklund, you have a delete everything amendment to align the bill with Chair Pawlowski committee targets. Would you like to move your bill and your delete everything amendment? And then we would take questions and discussions while we have the amendment in front of us. Chair Ecklund.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll move House File 14 to be laid over, and I'll also move the delete all amendment as well, delete everything too.
Okay, can you please explain the bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The original broadband bill, members, was for $120 million, $60 million for each year of the biennium. When targets came out in that, it had to be reduced. So the delete all amendment appropriates $30 million to the Office of Broadband one time for the be used in the border broadband fund account, and $350,000 of each year of the biennium for their to be able to manage the account, Madam Chair, and that would be the extent of the bill. I think what we've seen in this past year of the pandemic, Madam Chair, members, is that broadband is as important or more important now than it ever has been. But we also take a look at the vast amounts of federal money that are that have come into the state under RDOF and are going to be coming into the state under ARP. And so we want to make sure that the Office of Broadband has $30 million for the first year of the biennium so that they can get these projects out and then try to untangle what all the federal funding means. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions.
All right, so want to thank you, Chair Ecklund, for that introduction of your bill. Are there any questions or comments on the DE2 amendment? I have Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Chair Ecklund, I think I'm in the right order. I know this is your delete everything, but this is essentially your bill. So I'll just ask my couple of quick questions now, really to the bill. It's pretty simple, so I think that's what you're going with. I have two questions for you. The first one is with this money, and then I don't remember the name of it, but we got all that federal money a couple of years ago as well, to the tune of like $100 million or something like that. Now there's more COVID money. The first question that I have, has the broadband office identified that we have that much work that we either have ahead of us or can be done in a given year? Because I know with construction seasons that can be somewhat limiting. Are they confident that they could, if you will, expend this money on projects that are out there before us in the next 2 years?
Chair Ecklund.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Miller, I don't know about the federal money. We're still trying to untangle what that actually means, especially the RDOF funding that you referenced. But the Office of Broadband will be able to get these $30 million grants out when they do the normal RFP.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will tell you that that's a concern of mine. It's always like us to say, well, more money is better money. And there's a lot of money going into broadband. And I think from Representative Garofalo, you're going to hear some opinions on that I'll refrain from. But I just want to make sure that when we're approving money that there's part of the, when we talk about competitive grants, we always think, well, that's limiting, like that keeps people from being able to do things. But sometimes the competitive grants also rise to the top of projects that really should be done and are ready. And I just don't want to just start finding places to do projects. I guess we'll see what happens with that. The second question that I have, I'm pretty sure I'm right on this policy because my communities have come to me. And when we say broadband, what we're really talking about with the broadband office is fiber optic. And out in my communities, a lot of the communities are wanting to do what's called a hybrid system. So there's fiber optic, but then there's also fiber optic to antennas that then, whether it be to a farm site or for whatever reason, they want to be able to do some wireless stuff as well as part of the system. And they're telling me that under this grant application, they can't do that. It's essentially fiber optic or nothing. And so can you clarify that? Is that correct, or are they misunderstanding this? Because that's going to be a real important thing for the communities that want to apply for this.
Chair Ecklund.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Miller, at this time, that is correct. I believe that we need to start probably figuring out some of our broadband policies to see if these things work. And I'll give you a prime example. In my district, there's a company called Treehouse Communication, and they are providing wireless broadband to 300, I believe it's 300, better than 350 people. I thought the number was 386, but 350, better than 350 customers in and around Burnside Lake in Ely. And they're using the water tower in Ely. And if anybody comes in Ely, they can recognize that iconic tower as soon as they come in. So they're using the water tower in Ely, and then they're using 2 or 3 other smaller towers to relay that signal. And they are telling me that when this is rolled out, that they will meet or exceed state broadband speed goals. So I think going forward, we're going to need to take a look at a lot of this type of things, Representative Miller and members, because as these systems develop out, we need to figure out how we can get it to our more rural customers. And Representative Miller, your district is a lot like mine. When you get out into the rural parts of it, when you're a half mile between mailboxes, it makes it a real challenge for normal providers to be able to provide fiber to the premise.
Thank you, Chair Ecklund. And thank you, Chair Moran. I'll leave it at that. I can tell you that there's a couple other policy things that are getting in the way of some of this making sense, but that's definitely one of the biggest issues. If we're going to be spending this money, I have some thoughts on that, but if we're going to be spending this money, we certainly want to be able to do projects that make sense. And the communities in my area are kind of handcuffed on that issue. That's a real big issue for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Miller. Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Madam Chair, so DE2 is getting amended on the what House file?
1524.
Madam Chair, you were correct the first time. 14?
Yeah. Okay, yes.
Okay, so 14 is going to be the vehicle that will contain 1342, 1524, 1670. Do I have that right?
So we will be merging this bill that we're on now with House File 1524, which is the Ag bill.
Okay, but earlier on we had merged 1342 and 1670. Is that bill going to be traveling separately, or is that going to be attached to these 2 bills as well?
So we did merge those 2 bills right together, and they went to the General Register.
Okay, so Madam Chair, my question is that those bills that we merged together, are they going to be attached to these bills as well at some point in the process?
I don't know right now at this moment. Maybe you can ask the chairs. Chris, would you happen to know how they're going to travel?
Yes, Madam Chair, Representative Garofalo. So the first 2 bills that we acted on today were combined onto Representative Nor's bill, House File 1532. That bill moved down to the General Register and will be its own bill. The 2 bills now on the agenda, House File 14 will be amended with this delete everything amendment and laid over. And then the language of this bill as amended will be merged onto the agriculture bill from Representative Sundin. And that bill with the agriculture and broadband provisions will move to the General Register as a separate bill on House File 1524.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. McCall. I appreciate that explanation. I'll clarify it a different way. There has been discussions that these bills that we're talking about are actually at some point in the process going to get merged together as one larger bill. And I'm that's the question. I understand that we're going to pass two separate bills out of this committee. What I'm asking is if these two bills that we're passing separately are then going to be the two bills, which are actually four bills, if those two bills are going to be merged into one bill.
Well, I have not heard that, Representative Garofalo. You've heard more than me. Maybe you can ask the authors of the bills that you are requiring, that, you know, maybe you can ask the authors of House File 14 whether or not that is where his bill will eventually land. So to Chair Ecklund, could you respond to Representative Garofalo whether or not these will be merged into one bigger bill?
Madam Chair, it's my understanding that House File 14 will be merged with the Ag Bill, and as far as I know, that's as far as the merging will go.
Okay.
Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just Representative Ecklund, Madam Chair, if and when the decision is made to combine all four of those bills into one bill, if you could just let our staff know or let me know, we certainly would appreciate that. So. Representative Ecklund, I do not have an amendment for your DE2 amendment, but I do want to get your opinion on something. In the federal legislation, the $2.5 billion, they specifically call out broadband as a permissible use. And so in thinking about how we're going to be approaching this, I was considering offering an amendment to your bill on the House floor that would be a conditional appropriation. So it would not appropriate any money, but it would say if certain criteria were met, then these dollars could come from the federal funds as opposed to from general fund dollars. There's multiple reasons to do that, but before I go forward on that pathway, I want to kind of get your feedback and if that's something that's you have an opinion on.
Representative Chair Ecklund.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Garofalo, I think that's certainly worth looking at. I think if you take a look at what we've done, you take a look at last summer with the CARES Act dollars and what's happening with other federal funding that's coming out. The federal government in its wisdom has put some crazy conditions on things. And so if in fact we can figure out how to pay for this with federal money, I'd certainly be interested in taking a look at that, but I'd want to see what the language looks like, run it by staff and make sure that it would work.
And Madam Chair and Representative Ecklund, again, I don't have an amendment for you today, but also whether it's fixed wireless, cellular data, fiber, geosynchronous satellite, or low Earth orbit satellite, I don't think people really care as long as they have 25 down, 3 meg up for their speeds. Any opinions on some language we can put into this appropriation later on that would allow our satellite or emerging providers to be able to be individuals to qualify for grants at an individual basis as opposed to requiring it that be paid for infrastructure?
Chair Ecklund.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Garofalo, it's my understanding that the Office of Broadband is neutral on technology as long as it meets the broadband speeds. I think we had a similar conversation last year when we were doing whatever House file it was that we had broadband in 2 years ago. And so as long as we meet the speeds that we need, I think the Office of Broadband would be willing to work with that.
Yeah, Madam Chair and Representative Ecklund, I think the concern is that if we're working with satellite providers, what we're doing is we're providing grants to individual customers as opposed to entities, and that's where the office has complained in the past, is that it gives them less control over those funds and administering them. And so that's a conversation I hope that you have with the Senate if in terms of how it's going to be appropriated. So I obviously have some opinions about broadband, but in the interest of time, I'll save those for the House floor. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion to the bill? Seeing none. Chair Ecklund renews his motion to adopt the DE2 amendment. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. So I want to just say again, I want to just thank Chair Ecklund for carrying the bill to help, to help build a better broadband infrastructure to every part of Minnesota and to make us all more connected. With that, Chair Ecklund, would you like to have some last words?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think this past year, like I said in my opening, has shown us that broadband is an integral part of what we need to do to function in society, whether it be school, work, or pleasure. And all residents in the state of Minnesota deserve broadband. It is no longer a luxury, but it is a necessity, and I liken it to rural electrification. So when we get ready to merge this bill onto the Ag bill, Madam Chair, I ask for member support.
Thank you, Chair Ecklund. So there being no further discussion, the chair will lay House File 14 over as amended. All right, we're going to move into House File 1524 with Chair Sundin, the Ag Omnibus bill. Chair Sundin, would you like to move your bill and have it recommended for placement on the General Register?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That would be my motion.
All right. So, members, are there any questions? So this bill will be placed on the general register just for clarity. Could you tell us about the bill, Chair Sundin?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'm happy to present House File 1524. That's the Omnibus Ag Finance Bill. It's a bill that has the fingerprints of every member of the committee and voices of dozens of people who provided written and oral testimony on it. Just a short overview. Our target was large compared to other years, and for that, I am grateful. The general fund spending limit for the Ag Finance bills was $138,820,000, or a net increase of 11.574 million. Our tails target was 9.614 million. We met these limits. Lines 11 and 13 of the spreadsheet will indicate that. We have three main accounts in this committee. Minnesota Department of Ag, the largest, is general fund spending of 112.789 million for fiscal year 22-23. The Board of Animal Health, general fund spending of 12.061 million for the biennium. The Ag Utilization Research Institute, there's general fund spending of 8.086 million for the biennium. That's an increase of 300,000. The pandemic really emphasized a few major realities. It's critical that we have a strong state agencies to keep our food supply safe and ag sector functioning. Our access to food and the nature of our food supply chain are serious issues. And times are changing, and how well we adapt and make corrections will play into how we face the future. The bill responds to these realities in a number of ways. This budget provides the critical funding necessary to continue basic core functions of our three accounts and provides targeted new funding, including $66,000 a year for necessary lab equipment upgrades to fulfill regulatory functions, $50,000 a year for additional farmer mental health and outreach, $100,000 a year for farm safety grants, $20,000 a year for additional farm advocate services. The 1% increase in funding to maintain our current level of services at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture and Board of Animal Health. This funding will help the public remain confident about the safety of the food they eat and products they consume. The agencies can provide oversight and regulation and provide the programming to keep agriculture strong in Minnesota. Next section I'd like to talk about is access to food and supply chain issues. We know everyone has everyone does not have the same access to fresh food. Urban communities with larger BIPOC populations in small rural areas face the greatest challenges associated with being in food deserts. This bill doubled the amount provided for grants for good food access in food deserts and grants for urban agriculture provided through Agri from $300,000 to $600,000. Thank you, Representative Thompson. This doubled the amount provided for grants for farm to school early care program through Agri from $400,000 to $800,000 per year. It also provided base level funding for the farm to food shelf program and expanded types of food available through it. Based on past priorities, we expect Second Harvest, Heartland, and the Food Bank Network will be candidate for federal funds to meet increased needs. Thank you, Representative Hansen. On the supply chain, we're seeking to increase the number of small and medium-sized livestock meat processors to meet increased demand and need for options. This will be providing $110,000 a year to match federal funds for meat inspection program and $150,000 a year for the RE meat specialist. That was a bill of mine. This authorizes also $1 million from Agri for livestock processing and includes custom meat exemption for smaller independent seasonal wild game processors. That's the garage guys that process deer. That's also a bill of mine. We have important work to do. Although the ag budget is relatively small in terms of general fund spending, agriculture is a major contributor to our entire state budget, due in part to dedicated farmers with a wide mix of crops and livestock operations, processors, innovators, and small and large agriculture related businesses all across the state, and education and research to support them. We continually look for new ways of doing things and new markets for what we produce. These new markets and strategies not only help on the economic side, but also open more doors for opportunity to make agriculture broader and richer for the people participating. The bill reflects supportive initiatives that touch agriculture in a broad manner, such as $100,000 for international trade and new markets, $50,000 in fiscal year 22 for industrial hemp development. We provided $18.6 million in funding for the AGREET program, which funds ag research at the university and other ag education opportunities. We provided $31.177 million. That's an increase of $1.79 million for Agri, the value-added grant programs that supports all types of ag and seeks to prioritize underserved communities. And we provided an additional $1 million per year to partially meet increased activity associated with bio-based initiatives. Very important in my region of the state. There's $2 million a year to provide infrastructure grants to expand access to biofuels. This is a team effort. The governor's on board. My friend across the aisle, Paul Anderson, and myself are big fans of this. This doesn't increase the biofuels mandate. It acknowledges that gas-powered cars will be in our future for years. So providing infrastructure, biofuel blended gas is available to folks, and this is important. Technology continues to develop and see this as a second prong to other electric vehicle initiatives. And we need to adapt to change. This is somewhat of a troubling statistic I'm going to share. Needs to be a changing of the guard. The average age of a Minnesota farmer is 56 years old, and roughly 99.16% of Minnesota farmers are white and largely male. In looking to the future, we have opportunity to address inequities by supporting segments of the population who aren't currently represented or supported, namely people of color, Indigenous people, women, persons with disabilities, and veterans, among others. The bill funds a new position at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture for emerging farmers and outreach, and $25,000 a year for translation services when necessary. We mentioned this before, but it doubled the amount provided for grants for urban ag. We provided an ongoing funding for the Emergency Farmers Working Group. It's $10,000 a year plus language per account. Thanks again, Representative Hansen. We provided $100,000 in fiscal year 22 and $50,000 in fiscal year 23 for farm transitions to make connections with emerging farmers. We also increased focus on soil health and environment and building on long-time land stewardship. We provided $1 million for Ag's Best Management Practices program and $500,000 Climate Smart Farms Initiative, which piggybacks on successful clean water programs. Thank you, Representative Lippert. Included a new seed labeling requirement, treated seed disposal restrictions, and prohibitions on selling using neonic treated for ethanol, feedstock, etc., to help address issues with neonics and pollinators. Thank you, Representative Chair Hansen. Increased the pesticide gross sale fee rate by 0.35% for ag pesticides and 0.4% for non-ag pesticides to help increase the recommendations from the recent Office of Legislative Auditing report regarding the increased oversight and more fully fund necessary lab equipment. We have a broader range of farming opportunities. There's increasing interest in approaching farming and researching consumers in different ways. How well we support these folks will determine the direction of an important part of ag. We're reauthorizing grants to farmer-owned cooperatives. Again, thank you, Representative Vang. Responded to cottage food producers who asked for updates to the law that would allow them to grow and meet challenging circumstances. Again, a Vang initiative. Again, the Agri funding matches up with value-added opportunities for smaller farmers. I think it's also important to note that based on past decisions by the Walz administration and current need, we believe a number of the initiatives touched in the bill will be high priorities for the new federal funding. We have communicated our interest in using federal funds on issues involving hunger, food access, emerging farmers, urban ag, livestock processing, value-added grants, and farmers' mental health and outreach, and based our budget with an eye on that type of funding. With that, I ask for your support and stand ready for questions.
Well, thank you, Chair Sundin. I do believe I see a question from Representative Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Chair Sundin, for that good comprehensive explanation of the bill. I won't have a question. I just think since I looked at the makeup of the committee and there's not a lot of ag people in there, I'm not going to be supporting this bill today, and I wanted to give my reasons why. But I do want people to know that this, Chair Sundin, you did a pretty darn good bill here, moving it in the right direction. I just think there needs to be some changes that I'm confident will probably happen in the conference committee process. This is definitely less burdensome than the bill that's coming up in environment and agriculture. So I do appreciate that. Just a couple quick points, Madam Chair. I won't take too much of our time because I know we've got a lot more to do, but I want to point out to those things. A couple of my concerns in this bill, there's a change to the Board of Animal Health that raises the board from 5 to 7. That's relatively minor. How they defined it, I think the Chair Sundin cleaned it up from what we saw in earlier versions, but I still think the two pieces that I can't accept are that the Senate having the ability to approve or disapprove appointments has been removed from what's existing law and removes that. And then we bring in something that sounds very reasonable, and one of the members will have to be from one of the tribal nations. And I guess in practice, I don't have any issue with that. That can already be the case now. But the way the Board of Animal Health has worked to this point is it's really driven by its mission of who's on that board. Now we're adding a little sense of politics into it, saying we have to have certain types of people that are there. And I think that's just in past bills that many of you probably haven't seen in previous ag committees, it's been even more expansive than this. And so while this is only one small change, I think it's a significant change and I can't support that. In there is a significant increase in pesticide licensing fees. It goes from 0.5 to 0.9, almost doubling. And 0.9% might not sound like a lot, but when you're talking about the quantities that are involved, I remember, I believe it was Representative Anderson who gave some real numbers on some of the increases. And one of the biggest challenges for farmers members is the input costs are what make or break you anymore in agriculture. And there's been other significant input cost increases in other areas, including rent, including the cost of seed, including the cost of equipment. And so while this may not seem like a significant increase, to double this cost that's going to be passed on to the producers is just way too large. There's a policy thing in here, treated seed packaging, which again sounds pretty minor. You know, they just want to put a proper label on this packaging, but in practice, this doesn't work very well because Minnesota would be the only state that does this. And I can tell you that the way the seed companies work is depending on the type of weather, the type of planting season, there's lots of different factors. This seed needs to be moved back and forth. And I know there's some farmers that purchase from over state lines. They wouldn't be able to do that. That's going to be a problem. I would like to see better clarity personally between, we have two definitions in Minnesota statute. One was, I think, clarified certainly since I've been in office. It may have been here before this, but we had what was called beginning farmers, and you've seen a lot of legislation on beginning farmers. Well, now we have emerging farmers, and Representative Bang did a good job of someone asked to have it. I think Representative Anderson asked her to clarify that, and I think she did an okay job in clarifying that. But understand, members, that emerging farmers is going to be sprinkled in a lot of law if this is passed into law. And I don't know that it's really clear on what this does or doesn't mean, especially in relationship to beginning farmers. So as we move forward, this may be somewhat my fault, but I'd certainly want to have that conversation, have a clearer understanding by the time this comes back out. I do want to talk about two things that I think that are good. One was, let me look on this. Oh, there's two pieces of policy in here that I think actually should be used in many different places in government. So I kind of like them. Might not be perfect in this and people might be able to criticize them, but I really like them. One was that money that's given through grant programs can't be used for lobbying us legislators. I like that. I think that we need to do that in probably every place that we spend money out. Similarly, Chair Hansen has in here the report on the incentive programs and basically saying, was the money spent properly? How was it used? Did it affect change? All those sorts of things. There was some talk in committee about how this was too narrow and too focused on one group. Maybe that's the case in this bill, but I do think that that's something that I've supported in the past and we need to look at in many different areas. The legislature sends out hundreds of millions of dollars a year, if not into the billions of dollars. And we say, this is going to affect change in this way. And then we don't know if it does or it doesn't. So I think that that's some good things moving forward. But again, members, I do appreciate Representative Chair Sundin, the work that you're doing on this. The bill is pretty close in my case, but for today, I'm going to be a no on this. Thank you.
All
Madam
right.
Chair, I've got a couple responses, I guess.
Yes, please go ahead,
Just to-
Chair Sundin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, regarding the Board of Animal Health, there's a couple of different reasons for, or one particular reason for changing the number to 7. There's anticipation that at some point, state of Minnesota will only have 7 congressional districts, and at some point, maybe they could be apportioned appropriately throughout the state. That was one thought. In regards to the tribal member, the native tribes in Minnesota, the original Minnesotans, are contemplating and are becoming active in the elk farming industry, or releasing elk into the wild. And that's something I'm certainly not opposed to, because I'm an elk hunter. But they show an interest in doing it right, and kind of piggybacking on the research that the Department of Ag is involved in right now. So this isn't political at all with the tribal member appointee. So thanks for your comments on that. I guess I could switch into probably a thank you from Representative Hansen. He came up with that accountability language, and I'm glad you're in agreement with that. But looking forward to working on the final product with you and others within legislature. So thank you.
Chair Moran, just one quick reply, if I could.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this will be really quick. Representative Sundin, on the tribal member, I can support that reasoning, but the bill that's going to be coming up either next or here yet this afternoon, Chair Hansen's bill, actually starts moving us in a direction of begins to move us in the direction of ending cervidae farming. And so I fully support elk farming in the tribal nations, but I'm not so sure that we're going to be having elk farming if Chair Hansen gets his way on that. So that's a contradiction. I'm saying we'll see where it goes from here. Thank you.
Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this really is just kind of a question of opinion and a direction from Chair Sundin. And it's a topic that is similar to both the transportation and ag, and that has to do with biofuels and the upcoming proposal for clean or carbon-free fuels into the future. And it impacts both of these agencies and both of these committees as well. And so I'm curious if Chair Sundin actually heard this information, this bill, and had a chance to debate it, and what he thinks it might do positively or negatively to the biofuels industry.
Chair Sundin.
Well, I've had several discussions within our caucus and others, and I guess as importantly with the governor. And when we talk about biofuels moving into the future and other alternatives such as electric cars, there's two lines of thought. We can do electric cars, but it's going to take quite some time to get there. We can do an increased mix of biofuels at some point and get there, reduce emissions and carbon output a lot quicker with a biofuel mix, rather than waiting and keep burning dirtier fuel while we wait for electric cars to come of age. So I think it's our responsibility to take a look at both paths and maybe do both as we move along. So those are my thoughts on that. I've got to turn back to the pesticide issue as far as the importance of being aggressive with the pesticides. The state of Minnesota exports 437 million pounds of agriculture products globally. That includes 61 different countries, and there's 128 Minnesota companies involved in that type of trade. So a very small increase in the pesticide fees to make certain that we continue to work to have clean food exported and keep our industry strong. I think it's very important. So I hope that covers some of your concerns.
Representative Petersburg.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, I think anytime we can figure out how to burn cleaner fuels is of course positive. And I think biofuels has one of those. My only concern is that we were unable to hear it in transportation. And I believe Chair Hornstein is going to allow us to hear a lot of the information in an informational basis, but it's such an important piece that I think it's important for both ag and transportation to have heard that. And so I'll be looking forward to hearing more details about how that would work and what impact it'll have into our future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Garofalo.
Madam Chair, Representative Sundin, how much revenue is raised in your bill?
Chair Sundin.
Oh, God, the increases?
Madam Chair, Representative Sundin, correct.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, percentage-wise, it's a 1% increase in the entire budget.
Representative Garofalo.
Madam Chair, Representative Sundin, no, I meant like the dollar amount. What's the total amount of dollars that are in new revenue above baseline that is raised in your bill?
I believe the increases that we reported as far as the targets go, is 11.574 million, and then entails 9.6 roughly.
Representative Garofalo.
And Madam Chair, Representative Sundin, that's the general fund target, but that's a net spending number. So when a committee goes out and raises revenue, it has the effect of lowering the applicability to the general fund. So that's why we don't have the ability when we're looking at the general fund targets to see how much non-tax revenue is in there. So in terms of, and feel free to defer to nonpartisan research if they can tell us, what is the amount of non-tax revenue, what is the amount of revenue increases that are in this bill?
Can we have, would you like fiscal staff to respond to that, Chair?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have fiscal staff available to answer the detailed questions.
Okay, to fiscal staff.
Madam Chair and members, Ken Savory, House Fiscal Staff. There are two revenue, increases in the bill regarding, I think, what Representative Garofalo was asking about. And combined in the FY 22-23 biennium, that is $2.479 million increase. One of the revenues, both the revenues being to the Ag Fund.
Okay, and Madam Chair, and to the nonpartisan research, how about other non-general fund revenue increases as well?
Mr. Savory.
Madam Chair and members, the $2.479 million was to the Ag Fund, so that is non-general fund. This particular bill actually decreases some revenue to the general fund as well. So, for example, when the bill dedicates food licensing fees, that's a reduction of general fund revenue. So, in total, the reduction of general fund revenue is roughly $7.2 million in FY 22-23.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, into nonpartisan research, that's what I'm looking at here are lines 279 and 280. Is that correct? On the fiscal spreadsheet?
Mr. Savory.
Madam Chair and members, that is correct. Those are the general fund revenue changes, yes.
Representative Garofalo.
Thank you. And then if we could just come back to, so then I'm looking at the spreadsheet here, what looks like line 273, that's where that 7.2 million is offset. Can you just, again, explain that $7.2 million interaction with the general fund for us?
Mr. Savory.
Madam Chair and members, I believe the line Representative Garofalo is referring to on the spreadsheet is line 273. And in current law, there are food licensing fees. And this bill, and additionally the governor's proposal, dedicates those licensing fees. So what that means is that these are general fund fees under current law. And then this particular bill is proposed would switch those fees to the Ag Fund. And so you would see a reduction in general fund revenue. This bill also has a reduction in general fund spending to the protection services area, and therefore those fees in a sense will offset.
And
Representative Garofalo.
Thank you. And Madam Chair and to our nonpartisan staff. So when I'm looking at line 275 and it says revenue adjustments 9899, and then I look at line 281, general fund revenue totals, and we see a reduction of 7.2 million. Is that where the 2.7 million is coming from that you mentioned earlier in terms of when I was asking for the amount of revenue that was raised?
Mr. Savory.
Madam Chair and members, the number I referenced earlier was a combination of line 274, which is the cottage food law changes, and then the pesticide fee increases. I think in terms of changing revenue, I thought you were referring to fees that were increasing. To kind of just briefly walk through kind of the revenue adjustments for non-general fund. If you look at line 271, the bill appropriates through the general fund $110,000 a year for the meat inspection program. And so the state is receiving a federal match. So technically that is revenue the state is receiving that is non-general fund. And then the pesticide fee increases are obviously new revenue coming from people that do purchase those particular products. And then 273, we talked about the dedicated food licensing fees, and the 274, the cottage food law changes are a broadening of the fee for cottage food law. So that is different revenue than it is now.
Representative Garofalo.
Thank you. So, and thank you for explaining the federal interaction there. I think it just it's important for members to remember the net spending target. That is not necessarily indicate the amount of spending that is taking place. That non-tax revenue does subtract from it. So it sounds like I just need to do some more. I have to have a better understanding of that federal interaction there. So thank you to our nonpartisan staff. And then my last question, and this is either for Representative Sundin or for nonpartisan research. Page 18, section 6 of the bill, this federal funds replacement appropriation. Is it your intent, Representative Sundin, that implies to the entire, this federal funds replacement, that it applies to the entire bill, or is it just to specific acts or specific appropriations in this bill?
Under section 6?
Chair Sundin.
Correct. So
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, so this is an Article 1, Section 6. This is going to be page 18, line 8. And Representative Sundin, if you need to defer to nonpartisan research on that.
Yeah, I think I will.
Okay, Mr. Savory.
Madam Chair and members, I would defer to Mr. Sullivan on this, but I believe it is specifically talking about general fund appropriations. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Sullivan.
Madam Chair and members, I think that's generally true. What Mr. Savory said. The language on 18.10 says any expenditures authorized under this act. So that could be from any fund, but I think Mr. Savory is correct that in general, this is a requirement for Minnesota management and budget to review all the expenditures in the act and determine if they're eligible for federal state fiscal recovery fund dollars, and if so, to use those dollars in place of the general fund dollars appropriated in the bill.
Madam Chair, let me to nonpartisan staff, let me restate my question. So I believe that this is obviously related to general fund, because on line 16 it says fund amounts appropriated under this act are canceled to the general fund, and so I would expect that. My question is, this language right now, it's applying to a certain section of the bill, Article 1. It's going to be merged with other sections of this bill. Is this section 6 meant to apply to all articles that will be contained in this bill?
Who would like to respond to that? Would that be Mr. Sullivan or Savory?
Madam Chair, I can respond to that. I think that's a really good point. I think when the bills are merged, unless we get direction from maybe the author of the bill, Chair Sundin, that his intent is that this language should apply only to the agriculture spending in the combined bill and not to broadband. Currently, the language says in this act, and that would be all articles, including once the bills are merged, the broadband language from Chair Ecklund's bill.
Okay, Representative Garofalo.
Well, thank you. So, Madam Chair, I want to be clear, because when we're combining these bills, we do give broad discretion to nonpartisan staff, as chairs do in the past, to rewrite the bill. This is something that the committee should know about before this direction is given to, because again, as we stated, the Ecklund bill and this bill are being merged together. Mm-hmm. Is that language intended to apply to the broadband section that's being asked or not? And that should not be a decision that nonpartisan research makes or one member of this committee makes. The committee should know that before we act on it. So I would like either Representatives Ecklund, Sundin, or both to, or you, Madam Chair, I guess ultimately it'd be maybe your decision to clarify that matter before we vote on this.
Yeah, Chair Sundin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up, Representative Garofalo. I appreciate your expertise in catching something like that. I don't really know as far as a path forward on resolving this, but it's not my intention to infringe upon Representative Ecklund's bill. So I'd maintain this applies only to the ag section of the final product.
Representative Garofalo, and my response would be to support the recommendation that just came from Chair Sundin.
Okay. And so, Madam Chair, and either to you or to Representative Sundin, why?
Why would we like to just hold it to the ag bill? Is that your question?
Yeah, Madam Chair, but why would you do that? Why would you only seek to have federal reimbursed, have the federal funds cover just the ag portion and not the broadband?
Chair Sundin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I indicated that wasn't my intent to infringe on Representative Ecklund's bill.
And
impose any of my requirements on his legislation.
Representative Garofalo.
Well, Madam Chair and Representative Sundin, it doesn't impose anything. What it does is it says if there's this big pot of federal money out there, which there is, this is going to free up dollars in the general fund for additional uses to be used at a different time. The very same flexibility that you've put into your bill, this is the language that we should be putting into every single appropriation.
Well, you know, Chair Garofalo, I think it is the prerogative of the chair to make that decision of his committee about how he best want to utilize those dollars, whether they're federal dollars or the appropriation. I think it's really incumbent on the chair to make that decision. I do hear you state that it could be different, but, you know, currently, this is the decision of Chair Sundin, and I'm going to support that position as the Chair of Ways and Means.
Well, Madam Chair, I just want to be clear. You're saying that it allows the decision of the chairs to make that, but under the budget resolution you authored, you didn't allow them to make that decision. In fact, you explicitly prohibited them from making that decision. And so it's just important that members see Section 6 there. I don't know how you guys can take this language and say it only applies to that article without corrective language. In my opinion, I don't think you can give nonpartisan staff the direction to rewrite this bill to have it only apply to one section of it when you merge it in. You should either fix that on the floor or fix it here. But I do want to, just for the record, members know that in the Ways and Means law, this language right here, it is passing right. This is being passed by this committee with a general fund target of $0 for the federal funds. So that amendment would be applicable to any and all finance bills that are going to be taken up on the floor in the next week or two. So it's an important note for the committee and for staff to recognize that this is not language Pat Garofalo put in the bill. This is, you know, if the chair is saying that this does not violate the budget resolution and it's a conditional appropriation, then we can do this on all finance bills.
Well, I just really do want to thank you, Chair Garofalo, for pointing that out and bringing that clarity to this committee at this moment. This bill, you know, the language is not there to really make that decision. We went to Chair Sundin to see what was his position on it, but this bill has to move, right? It's going to go into conference committee. And if there needs to be any corrective or clarity around the language, we can do this as this bill moves through the body.
Madam Chair?
But yes.
Madam Chair, I certainly hope that Representative Garofalo will work with us to bring clarity to this issue. I appreciate his input, and we will be working on this, I'm certain. Thank you.
All right. So I do not see any other questions from members. And so With that, I would like to thank Chair Sundin for your work, and for the work of the committee. Really, in the scheme of things, it's really to help all the farming communities in Minnesota, whether big or small, who provide vital food and resources to all of us. And so I just want to thank you for that work, and just like to offer you the last words.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and a particular thank you to Representative Garofalo for pointing out some of the discrepancies that may exist in the bill. So like any bill, this is a work in progress still. It represents a good balance from industry and environmental protections, and it gives us a strong approach for fostering agriculture in Minnesota. Ask for your support. What's the motion now to add that other bill?
Yes, so members, we now have a series of motions and votes to merge these two bills and send them to the General Register, starting with Chair Ecklund bill. So Chair Ecklund, do you move that the language contained in House File 14 as amended be incorporated into the Agricultural Omnibus as a separate article?
That is my motion, Madam Chair.
The motion is before us, and this will be a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The motion prevails. Chair Sundin, do you move that the language of House File 1524 be incorporated into the Agricultural Omnibus as a separate article?
That is my motion.
The motion is before us, members. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The motion prevails. With that, Chair Sundin renews his motion that House File 1524, as amended, be recommended for placement on the General Register, and that nonpartisan staff be directed to make any and all technical corrections and amend the title. This will be a roll call vote. So Ms. Sparkman, please take the roll.
Chair Moran.
Aye.
Moran, aye. Vice Chair Olson.
Aye.
Olson, aye. Representative Garofalo.
Garofalo votes no.
Garofalo, no. Representative Albright, excused. Representative Becker-Finn.
Aye.
Becker-Finn, aye. Representative Bernardi.
Aye.
Bernardi, aye. Representative Ecklund.
Aye.
Ecklund, aye. Representative Hansen.
Aye.
Hansen, aye. Representative Hassan.
Hassan, aye.
Hassan, aye. Representative Hertas.
Hertas, no.
Hertas, no. Representative Hornstein.
Aye.
Hornstein, aye. Representative Johnson.
No.
Johnson, no. Representative Kresha.
No.
Kresha, no. Representative Liebling.
Aye.
Liebling, aye. Representative Lilly.
Lily, aye.
Lilly, aye. Representative Mariani, excused. Representative Marquardt.
Marquardt, aye.
Marquardt, aye. Representative Miller.
Miller, no.
Miller, no. Representative Nash.
Nash, no.
Nash, no. Representative Nelson.
Nelson, aye.
Nelson, aye. Representative Noor.
Noor, aye.
Noor, aye. Representative O'Neill.
O'Neill, no.
O'Neill, no. Representative Pulowski.
Pulowski, aye.
Pulowski, aye. Representative Petersburg.
No.
Petersburg, no. Representative Pinto.
Aye.
Pinto, aye. Representative Schumacher.
Schumacher, no.
Schumacher, no. Representative Schultz.
Aye.
Schultz, aye. Representative Scott.
No.
Scott, no. Representative Sundin.
Aye.
Sundin, aye. 17 ayes, 10 nays.
So there have been 17 ayes and 10 nays. The motion prevails. House File 1524, as amended, is recommended for placement on the General Register, and nonpartisan staff are directed to make any and all technical corrections and amend the titles. Thank you, both Chair Ecklund and Chair Sundin.